All right. So I will wait a couple seconds to get everyone in. But hi, everyone. I am Will Johnston. I am a technical lead at Redis, and Justin is a developer advocate with us, senior developer advocate, and we're here to show off an app we built that is tracking music streaming. So we're working with the Bandcamp API and tracking streaming purchases as they come in and showing. We'll have a dashboard to show you with all of that. Um, and yeah, so Justin, why don't you uh, introduce that? And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat, and feel free to call out where you're joining from and anything interesting going on in your area.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, I see already some people in the comments on YouTube saying hello. So hello, everybody. See lots of hand waving. So send you a hand waving emoji. Yeah, today's pretty interesting. It shares some of my hobbies and some of my passions with Redis, which is always fun. Let's start with the actual Bandcamp website. So whoop, there we go. So Bandcamp is a way to purchase music from artists. You can purchase streaming MP3s, FLAC files, and their actual merchandise. So T-shirts, cassettes, vinyl, CDs, things like that. And one thing that I really liked, if you can see in the center of the browser here, is this long procession of looks like albums and music. These are all purchases that are happening right now. We're within a couple minutes. And I would stare at this for a little bit. I'm like, that is so cool to see what the world is purchasing and listening to. And they're getting a lot of information. So I'm just looking at this and I can see the country that they're purchasing from, how much they actually paid for, because it's a sliding scale. You can pay more than what is suggested, so it goes more to the artist. And then I can see the artist that's being purchased. And I thought that was really cool. So I kind of sniffed around on the page with the developer tools, and I found the API that was being called. And we created just a little repository, just a little application that actually uses that API to process and interpret and collate that information. And we can get a broader view of all the information that's going forward. And let me just share with you that repository. So might not be able to see that little link up there, but basically it's under Redis-developer in our GitHub repo, and it's called Beats by Redis. And this is kind of a riff on an application that we've already kind of had within Redis that process streamed transactions with a bank, kind of like a fake banking app. But this made it a little bit more interesting, because I think music is more interesting than randomized charges for a random company. But it's been a lot of fun building with Will, and I've listened to a lot of music just seeing all these different bands come by. So yeah, it's really, really cool. And should I show the finished product that we're going to have?
Yeah, sure. And while you're getting that up, I'll put up a link to our Discord. So we have a Discord server with a community of tons of Redis developers. And for this live stream, we have a specific channel dedicated to this stream, and I'll send out any links so that you can click on them and you don't necessarily have to type them from looking at the screen. A question's already come through. Is Bandcamp storing streams of audio or the metadata? So for our purposes, we're looking at sales metadata that is streaming into our app from Bandcamp. So it's, real people out there in the world purchasing music, and we'll be able to see what they're purchasing.
Yeah, so we're not sure what goes on with Bandcamp under the hood or anything like that. And this is, I don't actually have the finished product, because my code right now on my local Docker instance is empty, because we're going to code it together. But basically what we're seeing here is two different pieces of metrics, a pie chart, and looks like a time series graph And then below, we'll be able to see all the artists that are coming in, all the transactions and purchases that are coming in. But we'll see this live plenty. So yeah, basically, this is kind of an overview. There, it's a little bit better, of what's going on. So it all starts up at the BC logo, the Bandcamp logo. We are making API requests. And that gives us an array of purchases that have happened within the last, we request every 2 minutes. Once we take those purchases in, we convert them into our stream. This stream, of course, is just an ordered list of key value pairs. We can traverse it. We can grab large portions of it. We can grab the most recent one if we want. It's a very powerful data type that everybody loves. One of the things that we talk about the most within Redis, really, which is great, which is fantastic. So we add those streams into our Redis stack instance, and then we do 3 different things. We want to be able to store all those purchases so we can search by artist name or album title or the single track description, things like that. So that's going to be that first tier, that ft.search, purchase search API. We're going to create that today. Then we're going to find the sales per minute. So I want to see how many purchases are being made per minute. And we're going to put that in the time series so we can actually track sales per minute throughout the day. And that becomes actually very interesting because you can see when there are peak purchase times and when there are minimum purchase times. Lastly, I'm going to find out who are the top earners. So what bands are earning the most money at any given time? We're going to be using a sorted set. And that's going to be on the top earners API. And we'll go over these data structures. The front end is interactive and it's live and it's lively and there's a lot of movement. So we're going to be using WebSockets, which I think is just great to use. And lastly, of course, we have auth that Will has worked on, and so you can actually log in. And this actually gives us the opportunity to further enhance this. So this application is open source. So we encourage you to pull it down, run it on your local machine, get excited about it, build some extra enhancements to it, and submit those, because this is actually a lot of fun. And this is a great tool for people to learn Redis and just try new things with Redis on a data set that is lively and changing. So we have a lot of ideas, and we'll actually share those with you after we're done coding. But this is the main diagram that we kind of refer to when we're coding to this. And so this is kind of what we're going to be pulling down from the API from Bandcamp. Just an array of these objects. So we have track name, artist name, item description. So if it's not an album, we'll get like single title or something like that. The UTC date, which is the actual timestamp of when it was purchased. That's actually really, really important, because if you have multiple purchases of the same album, the only difference that they'll have is the UTC date. We can also see what country it was purchased in, the amount paid in the local currency, and then the amount paid in USD, because this is a company from the United States. Also, it contains a piece of art URL, so we can actually pull up the image of what was purchased, which is really nice.
So a question came through: is Vue connected to Redis directly? No. So we are communicating through an API. We have a backend that uses Express, and it's just a kind of bare bones Express server that serves data to our Vue front end.
Right. Yeah. So this is a full stack. It's actually a Vern stack: Vue, Express, Redis, and Node. So you can think of it as just any front end. So we have session storage and authentication. Within this repository, you'll see instructions on setting this up. It does require, as you see, secrets. And then these are just, I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are the different API endpoints, the parameters required, and what will be returned. So you want to take a look at these. There's the session API, and then there's purchases API. And for today's video, we're going to be working on the purchases API. So the search, the history, and the top sellers. A lot of this is already written for you, so we get to focus on just the Redis, which is really great. So the WebSocket is already there. And then we also have a Redis site Redis Insight tutorial, Will, if you want to talk about that really quick.
Yeah, so Redis Insight, for those who are unfamiliar, is just a GUI tool for interacting with data in Redis and visualizing it. It's up on screen now, so you can think of it like, MySQL Workbench or something, but for Redis. And what's really cool about Redis Insight is if you're new to Redis, or if you're new to some of the commands and features that we're talking about today, Redis Insight has a built-in tutorial inside of its workbench where you can go through and learn about different features and commands, and even interact with your own Redis database from within there through clicking buttons and seeing what commands do. So for this live stream follow-up, we wrote a custom tutorial that we'll send out that you can upload into your Redis Insight, and you can take a deeper dive into the commands that are being run behind the scenes. So, when you're writing an application in Redis, you're usually using a higher level client library that kind of abstracts the underlying commands. But it's really nice to know the commands that are being run and understand them a little bit more in depth. So that's what we go through in the tutorial. And not only that, the the tutorial gives you an overview of all of the different, like streams and JSON and time series and all of those types of things we're doing. But it also provides a way to debug your applications. So you can use, a profiler, and you can use all kinds of things in there. So we definitely, I spend a lot of time in Redis Insight whenever I'm building an app.
Yeah, it's become absolutely indispensable. And yeah, in all of the videos that you've seen, like that I've done, I now refer to Redis Insight because working in a terminal we all have done it. It's perfectly fine, but the Redis Insight shows you everything. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, so we are in the application. Let me first show you the blank app. So right now we have a little empty space for our purchases per minute. We have an empty space for our top 5 earners. Those are going to be the pie chart and the time series chart. We also have search transactions. Nothing is here. So we can't search just yet, but we still have that UI set up and it's ready to go. And then this actually has been done already. So this is the live stream of the purchases. And so we took out the album title, the artist name, how much it was sold for, and in what currency, and the country of purchase, and the art. So if I click on this top, Balejack is the newest artist on the top. If I click on that image, it will pull up to their Bandcamp website, because we do want to give Bandcamp some love for creating such an awesome site and an awesome API. So that's what it's looking like now. So what we're going to do first is let's work on the search. So that's going to be the search transactions bar. So to start that, I'm going to go into the front end in static assets, JavaScript purchases. And then I'm going to go all the way down. I'm going to activate that form, and that's going to start down here. It's going to start actually watching what I'm typing in there, and it'll start making a call. Now you see here, I'm not going to go over too much of the front end, but it's going to make a call to the API that we're creating called purchase/search, and it's going to give us the term. The term is what we're typing in, and that term is going to be given to the backend. Okay. So now I'm going to go into purchase repository. And this is actually what we're gathering. So we're storing all those purchases, right? We're actually going to be indexing and watching and searching with a couple key pieces. The UTC date, because we want to search by an order by date. But we want to search by artist name, item description, album title, and country. Artist name, description, and title, those are all going to be text. So we're going to search by full text of that. Country, because there are a finite number of countries, we can actually search by string, which is going to be a tag. Think of it as like blog post, find something with like album review, or if you're looking for something within like Amazon, search by the color red or size 14 or something like that. These are just finite strings that are shared among multiple instances, and they're not unique. So we have a finite amount of countries that are not unique. I mean, they all are, but Mexico is Mexico is Mexico is Mexico. Same with Canada. So that's why we have that as a tag. We'll treat that differently when we're actually searching, and I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so I have this repository already set up, and it's automatically running from our setup code that's already here. So I'm going to go actually over to purchase queries. And here we have some stubs that we're going to fill out. And these are going to be the functions that are run when we actually hit the endpoints that we're creating. So here's a search that we're going to be creating. And then there's a term that we're going to be searching with. So let's start. 1 second. Let me pull up my notes.
Yeah, and so like Justin said, we're using the JSON features of Redis to store purchases, and we're using the search features to pull out and do full text search, as well as tag-based string search, just directly on our Redis database.
And so right now I'm just going to do if term length is greater than 3. Basically, we're not going to start searching unless the term has at least 3 characters. Otherwise, you can get way too many responses or no responses at all. So it's just not worth anybody's time. So I'm going to actually call now the search. So to call search, we call the purchase repository. And then we call search. Where, let's first search by artist name, where artist name matches term. Now that's in itself our first search. Now I can search by artist name. So let's actually go and switch to browser.
So somebody asked where the survey link is. So we'll send the survey out at the end of this stream, and we'll send it out via Discord, or if you signed up on redis.com, you'll get it in your email as well.
So let's search by, I'm looking at a couple of the artists that are coming by here. I see JC Cat. Let's see if I can do JAC. What's going on there? Doctor real quick here. Oops. Oh, I haven't finished coding everything out yet. Sorry. I jumped the gun. I was really excited to show everybody. What I actually need to do is finish creating the route. So, sorry.
Yeah.
So let me just continue the search code. So we're searching for multiple things, right? So not just artist name, but album title, item description. So let's just go down the line. I'm doing artist name, but I also want to code out, I want to search by item description. Again, if we're selling singles or t-shirts, anything that a band would sell at a concert, we also want to search if it's in Bandcamp. So we're going to do artist name, item description, and let's do album title as well. And then let's also search by country. Now, one second.
Yes. So one thing, yeah, we'll need to change this up a little bit. He's doing some fast coding here, but
Sorry.
you can kind of think of this like if you're familiar with SQL or something. We're almost using we're using Redis OM, an ORM for Redis, but it works very similar to ORMs that you are probably familiar with other databases, where you just we're searching where. We have matches, we have or statements, there's and statements, all those good things.
Yeah, so now we're just chaining this. So I'm searching where artist name matches term, or artist description matches term, or album title matches term, or country equals term. Now, this is a big distinction. Since, if you remember, I was talking about country being a string or a tag, we want to use a different command to actually search for that term within country. So that's why I'm using equals. And you'll want to actually check out, I'm using the Redis OM Node.js client. And that is extremely thorough with the actual, let me actually pull up the link for you. It's extremely thorough with its language. It's great. You can write a beautiful poem with the client commands there. So I highly recommend you go through it. It's worth a read, and to see all the different options you have to create search queries like this that make sense to you, and hopefully other people will be looking at your code. So
yeah, and if you didn't catch it here, that we're using matches. Matches is kind of that fuzzy, full text search, whereas equals is similar to when you're coding, you say this equals that. And the reason we do that on country is because, like Justin said, country is a tag search that we're doing. So we're looking for. We don't want to do a full text search based on somebody searching France, right? When somebody searches France, we know there's only one France, so we want to make sure that it matches.
yep. All right, so I also added sort by UTC date raw descending. So we're also now going to get all of these search results in order from newest to oldest, just because that's how we want to receive our results. And then I don't want to get a bazillion results because that'll just be harsh on our front end. So I'm going to get 10, the first 10. And there we go. All right. So now we have our search query. We still have a little bit more to do. We actually need to add the search endpoint to our router. Now, our router is going to actually contain 3 endpoints: purchases, the history, the top sellers, and the search. So let me actually start coding that out.
Yeah, so like we mentioned earlier, we're not connecting our front end directly into Redis, so we're building this out as an API, and every API has routes. Assuming you're doing a REST API, which we're doing here, we have multiple routes, and just unbuilt yet, but the front end is expecting to go to, I think it's /purchases/search, and it should receive a list of purchases from that route. So that's what we need to hook up to our query into Redis.
All right, and that should do it. All right, so what I did is I just created a route to search. I'm pulling the term, which is the partial or full or whatever anybody types into that form, pulling that out of the queries, and I'm returning the results from calling the search function on term. So that should actually do it. And let's switch over.
The other cool thing that we haven't mentioned in here yet is we're running this app in Docker, and if you go to the download the code, you'll see that it's running a Docker instance. And not only that, we have it hooked up so that anytime we make changes to the code, it refreshes our server, and so the server restarts and we pick up the new API from the front end, which is really nice. The only downside is that it takes a couple seconds every time you save to restart, so it's not instant, but it's very quick.
So I just searched for Disco, And I can see now that I have things from album title. So Discount Fireworks is the album title. There's an artist named Skull Disco. Shout out to Skull Disco. And then I found Full Digital Discography, and then Tapioca Discos. So let's see if Will's released a new album. I'm not seeing any Will. Not specifically you, but I see a lot of your compatriots. And then this is always, I hope I don't see any Beavers. Nope. Oh, there's a Justin Robertson and a Justin Tinderdale. Okay.
I was actually going through this the other day, and I saw a Will Johnson come through, and I was like, I thought that you had put something in there, so I'm like looking through the code. What did he forth in here? But apparently there's a music artist who shares my name.
Yeah, no, it's always an honor. And then here we are. Let's look at all the purchases from Germany. So this is actually really cool. You're like, what is this country listening to? You know, from Bandcamp. And then, you know, we can check a lot of different countries. Here's Japan. Always very interesting. And you'll see on the right here, just all the different options that we can go through. And this is also a great opportunity to create yet another interesting visualization for this page that we'll go through when it has to do with countries. So. All right, so that was our first little sprint of search. Wasn't that hard, right? The main thing is to create a repository of all the things that you're going to want to search by. So you want to, you know, have a think, whiteboard things that you're going to want to search through with your large compendium of data, and that will really help you figure out how you want to shape that. Is it going to be, you know, full text search? Is it going to be tag search? Are these going to be in an array? Like, are you going to have an array of tags, basically, array of strings, things like that? So you really want to figure out how to navigate that. And we have Redis University does, of course, have full text search course, as well as a full text search with JSON as well. So you have a couple different options if you want to jump into that.
Yeah, okay. and we're using Redis Ohm here, which makes it really nice. You notice the code was very simple and straightforward for searching. Under the hood, Redis Ohm is creating an index for us in Redis and managing the search queries. In the tutorial that we'll send out at the end of this, it will actually step you through what the index that Redis Insight creates and how it runs the search, and it'll go a little bit more in depth into other types of searches you can run. But it can be a little bit more confusing to look at the command, which is why typically, you know, we'll use Redis Ohm or something similar to kind of abstract that away. And it makes it just really nice when you're searching, as opposed to having to learn the inner workings of the database just to perform a search.
And for those of you that are kind of like following along at home as far as where we're going, we do have a workshop.md markdown file, so you can actually see, like, I'm also following along in here because this is a big application. But this will actually have you go through the app and get it up and running as well. So if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at this because this is really helpful, and we can't always live code the whole application. So what we're going to be working on now is top sellers. This is really cool and very interesting information off of a very straightforward and fundamental data structure, and that's going to be the sorted set. So let me hop over the Redis Insight. Ooh, no report. I go right there. So within Redis Insight, we have a sorted set. So for every single purchase that has come through, we add the member, which is going to be the artist name, and then the score is going to be the total amount of money that has been purchased under that artist name. So looks like DJ Heartstring exists in our sorted set, and they're giving away their music for free. So there's going to be a 0 score. It's very nice of them. Same with Moonshine and Medicine Drum. Now, within Redis Insight, I can actually filter by score, which is great. So now we're going to start seeing some interesting information. So I'm seeing here that Mono, which is a beautiful band from Japan, They have actually accumulated $288 since I started this application, which is about 2.5 hours. So that's really great for them.
Yeah, that's pretty
Kevin
good.
Key has made $310. I think that's I think they're in Skinny Puppy. So there's just, you can see all this, all these different bands. Bowery Electric, another old industrial band, has made $199. This is all super simple. We're adding these purchases. We're incrementing these purchases in this sorted set as every single purchase is going through. So it doesn't take a lot of overhead for us, but we're going to get a large set that is sorted by the total amount of money that's given to them. So what we're interested in with this actual feature of the application is the top 5 biggest earners. So I'm looking at Redis Insight, and I see that various artists, Maike Rosa Vogel, sorry if I mispronounced that, Crack Cloud, the Reds, Pinks, and Purples, and Kinetic Orbital Strike. These are going to be our top 5 artists. So I'm going to pull that out and then display that to our front end in a beautiful little donut chart to show the breakdown of the top 5. So that's cool.
What what I love about sorted sets is they're essentially a data structure that if you're used to working in SQL or something, you don't have the advantage of a sorted set. So you have to combine, an index over the table that you're using or something like that and run a specific query to sort. And it ends up getting, over time as you get more and more data in there, it slows down and you ultimately end up building something similar to what a sorted set is just out of the box with Redis. So it's really awesome when just a very simple concept is available just within Redis from the get-go, and you don't really have to think about it. You just put data in there, assign it a score, put a member in there, assign it a score, and over time it builds this nice sorted list that you can use for all kinds of different things.
Alrighty, so I just created a quick little route for this is going to be /purchases/top sellers, and then I'm going to go to the top sellers method that I have stubbed out right here, and we will make a call to Redis. This one's going to be a little interesting. So we're going to call a range. We're going to get a range of the don't you have to do that. I'm just going to return. Wait, sorry. It's actually morning time where I am, so I'm still a little tired. So const range equals await Redis dot. We're going to call z range. Scores. So z denotes that it's going to be a sorted set because we can actually call range on set, and that would be a different command. So z range with scores, and this is going to give us the scores as well as the members. I'm going to call the sorted set key, which is going to be, as you can see up here, top sellers. So I can change that if I needed to. And then I'm going to look for -5 to -1, which is going to be basically the highest scoring 5 members. Now, the front end chart, the pie graph that we use actually requires a little bit of specific data. So this right here is just going to be overhead for me to prepare that data for the chart. So this range right here, that contains our entire sorted set data that we want, the top 5. Now I'm just going to be preparing it for chart. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, so basically, you could think of the chart we're building has a series, so the information as well as the labels for the series, and it expects the data in a particular format. So that's what we're doing here. Any typical API does this, not necessarily specifically for a front end, but when an API is dedicated to a specific function, you'll have to reformat your output oftentimes.
And we're using, I believe, Apex charts, which
yes.
is really, really nice. I thought it was quite beautiful and easy to use. So I've done a lot of time series work with Grafana, and I'm really used to Grafana, but transitioning and using Apex charts on the front end is really nice. Okay, so I am returning with this this route. I'm returning an object of series and labels. Series is just going to be the numeric data, the amount of money spent upon these artists, and the labels is going to be the actual value. Okay, so you just see what else I need to work on. So the front end also needs to be set up to get ready and activate that pie chart. And we have listed here where you want to actually do that. So this right here is the call. This is going to request using Axios on the front end. It's requesting that top sellers route.
Yeah, the other interesting thing we have, the front end is set up to receive data through a WebSocket. So the way we're doing the purchase stream is every time a new purchase comes in, rather than the front end just polling the API on an interval, it's actually just hooked up to a WebSocket and receiving the data as it comes in. So I don't know if you put in the WebSocket code specifically for this, but we have a cron job running on the back end that we can actually add the top sellers information to. So I think it's set up for a minute, or we can set it up for a minute, and every minute we can send the top sellers down, just so that you don't have to worry about having some sort of interval to poll for the top sellers or to poll for any other specific information.
Okay, and that is, I'm actually going to do the cron job right now.
Okay.
Here.
So yeah, if you imagine without something like a WebSocket, we would be kind of at the whim of the front end to decide when it's time to get more top seller information. And the only predictable way for it to do that would be every time a purchase comes in to recall the API. And you can imagine that might overload the API over time if the app was to all of a sudden get, millions of users or something. So it's likely that on Bandcamp's site, their stuff is not necessarily calling the API all the time. It's more receiving events from the API using the WebSocket.
So this magic code I entered right here, if you've done cron jobs before, you'll recognize it's just every 60 seconds. I'm basically saying, hey, every 60 seconds, please do the following. So const top seller data equals await top sellers, and then sockets for each. So everybody connected to us.
Yeah. So when each front end, each instance of the front end, whether it's multiple tabs on Justin's machine since he's running this locally, or if we had it deployed, people all over the world looking at the site, they would establish a socket with the server. And so every time we want to update them, we go through each socket and we send the data down.
There we go. And so we should be good there. And now basically I'm stringifying top sellers and the top sellers data. And this will go and trickle down to the front end. Let me check to make sure everybody is happy on my Docker real quick here. And I did a slight thing here, / that should be good.
Oh, that's right. I have a PTSD from when I was first learning cron and did a lot of bad things.
Hey, there we go. Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome. So I won't go over all the band names and things like that again, but so we now see a beautiful chart up here. And if we hover over, we'll actually see the number of, or the amount that these artists, the top 5 artists that we've seen in the last however long I've run this, since about 7 a.m. PSD, how much they've made. So various artists have made $887, so that's fine. So actually in the future, I might want to filter out various artists from my top 5 earners, because that doesn't really give us any information, because you probably have like a soundtrack or a compilation, things like that. But that's just specific to what we're doing here. So
yeah, and the other thing is, we're talking about the top 5 earners, but we're using a sorted set to get this top 5 earners. You could also do something like use a different sorted set to get the top 5 countries where purchases are being made, or like Justin said, we might not care about the top 5 earners, but imagine I'm a Bandcamp rep or something, and I have a list of artists that I work with, and I want to get a list of those specific earners. So that's something that we could build into the app. Now, we're not going to do that today, but it's like a future plan for the app, and with a little bit of effort, we could get that working for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we had more information from this API call, maybe if we had like the specific region of where these bands are based out of, say like I'm gonna find the top 10 bands that have earned money in Seattle, Washington, or
Yep.
Portland, Oregon, or say I'm going on a road trip and I want to like listen to all the top popular music of the places where we're going. This is just a really easy way to collate all that data and give you quick information. So awesome. So now we're actually plugging along pretty well. We are going to go to the last one. So let's look at Chrome again. You'll see this purchases per minute, that big, beautiful, empty chart. We're going to fill that out with a time series. And time series are one of my favorite data structures. You've probably seen me talk about them ad nauseum on our YouTube channel. But while I set everything up, Will, if you want to give them a quick TLDR on time series, that'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, so time series is a data structure that's built into Redis Stack, and it allows you to easily store a data over time. So this could be sent. A lot of people use it for sensor data. Say you're taking temperature readings or something like that. But you can also use it to store purchase data and stuff and streaming information if you want to look at it over time. It's very good for use with front end, charts in turn, like line charts and things like that. So anytime you look at a web page and you see, oh, there's a line graph on the page, chances are there's some sort of time series data structure going on in the background. It might not be Redis, but somebody is formatting a time series data structure. What's great about time series in Redis is because there's a dedicated data structure to it, there are ways in which Redis optimizes the data structure for quick retrieval as well as quick aggregation over time. So it has different ways to query the time series using like a time weighted average and other things that are very interesting when you're looking at different data stored in a time series format.
All right, so as Will was describing time series, you might have seen me actually create the history endpoint, and that's just going to call our history query. I just stubbed out right here. And this is going to call the time series. Now, there's going to be a couple different things that we're going to be adding within this final sprint. We're going to be adding to the time series, and then we're going to be initializing the time series, and then we're actually going to be calling the range on the time series. So this is probably the smallest one. So we'll start with this one, redis.ts, because you want to call the time series from the Redis client. Then we're going to call range, sales_ts, date.now. So now the first argument is what key we're going to be looking up. The second argument is going to be one of the two. This is going to be from timestamp and to timestamp. So from 1 hour ago. So I'm taking the current time minus 1 hour. And then the to timestamp is going to be now. So date.now. And so there we go. Now we're just going to be grabbing all the data from 1 hour ago to now. Now that's not all. We have to actually set this up a little bit more. Now, if we don't actually have a time series that when we're calling upon it, we're going to get a little bit of a complaint from our application. So I'm going to app.js, and within there, we want to check to see if there actually exists our time series. And now setup data is where we're going to be doing this. Right up here. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
So this is just a function that we call every time the server sets up. We create our indexes for our JSON values in Redis. And here we're going to conditionally create our time series if it doesn't exist. So we're using, the built-in exist command to check if a key exists. And if it doesn't, then we'll create it. And the reason for this is if we try to add to a time series that doesn't exist, we'll get an error. So the reason for this is there's not just one type of time series. When you're creating a time series, there are lots of different options for how you want it to work. So you can configure the duplicate policy. You can even configure aggregation ahead of time. So you can say, I want this time series to keep track of data by month versus by, second or by any random other interval. So that's what we're doing here is just creating it. And then you also need to populate it and then eventually return it.
Okay, so purchase stream. And here, we're also going to have to work on it in the cron job. But we want to actually add the purchases. So the amount of purchases per minute. So let me just jump onto that real quick here. If you want to see a little bit more about time series, I do have an explainer video. We're actually built out an air quality sensor, and that sniffs the air every 5 seconds for demonstration purposes. And you can actually add that to a time series. You can see over time how air has changed. I did that when we had a lot of wildfires in California.
Yeah, I always think about when I first started my career, I worked for a freight railroad company, and they have a ton of sensors on the tracks, you might imagine, to measure all kinds of things like the temperature of the wheels. It measures the distance. It'll even take like GPS recordings and just to understand what's going on as a train is going down the tracks to prevent things like derailments and also scheduling and those types of things. So I had a huge project where I was creating dashboards based on this for the dispatchers to visualize. And I did not have a time series data structure, so I was building all of that. I think they were using Teradata or something. So it's like creating queries out of Teradata and then building time series off of it.
Wow.
And it would have been really nice to just have a pre-built data structure that they can look at very easily.
So here I'm at the point now, while we're actually streaming the purchases, at this point, we're actually going to add each purchase length, so that the amount of purchases that we've captured in one API call into the time series. So we're adding to the sales TS, and then the first argument is going to be the key. And then the second argument, this is saying, hey, I trust you, Redis server. Just go ahead and add your own timestamp. You can add your own if you want, but I just trust them. The next is going to be the actual number that we want to associate with that timestamp. So it's going to be purchases.length. And then just in case there was any, for any reason, I'm kind of paranoid with the duplication policy because I've been bit before. I just add just to make sure. My own little eccentricity, I imagine.
So Melroy brought up a geographic heat map would be really cool. That would be a really cool feature to see, kind of a heat map overlay of where purchases are happening in real time. That would be an awesome thing to have. That would be something cool to see on the Bandcamp website itself.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. I feel like we're figuring out the next quarter of design here. Yeah, like a heat map, a word cloud, things like that. It's just, yeah, the world is our oyster when it comes to Redis data structures. Okay, I've added, as you can see here, I've added to the data, the time series. I created a route that will call a range of the time series. I have to actually make sure within this cron job, I also want to call and update this on my, sorry.
Yeah, so just like with top sellers where we're sending the top seller information down every minute, we can also send the time series down every minute. So it's very easy for the front end to get updated at the same time with both the purchase history as well as the top sellers.
So purchase history data equals await. This is calling that query that I created that gets that range. All right. A lot of typing without checking. So here's hoping. I can usually depend on all of our wonderful viewers to call out anything that they see that's screaming. So I haven't really seen anybody calling out anything. So
it looks good to me.
If there's any errors, it's all on the viewers, not me.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch over to the browser and find the browser on my computer. There we go. And let's see what happens. Oh, I think I know what's going on. I forgot, because I am such a back-end focused person, I forgot to actually correct and update our front end. So this is just basically saying, hey, front end, prepare to actually make the Axios calls to get our history. And just make sure that Docker has rebuilt that. And there we go. So now this is a little baby time series, but we can see at 9:49 a.m. there were 84 purchases. 9:50 a.m. there were 78 purchases, and then 9:51 there were 90 purchases. So this will go on and on and on and on.
And now we can tell that Justin lives in the Pacific time zone.
Yes, that's very true. So yeah, this is really great, and I'll just tell you now, the way we have coded this, you notice that we're not requesting any kind of aggregation. So if you have this running on locally or anywhere, and if you have this running for a while, you're going to get a very dramatic, very dense, very chaotic looking time series. So a little challenge that you might want to get into is creating aggregation calls within the time series to actually create separate time series keys that will give you different buckets of time. So we're looking at every 1 minute increment. You can actually have these average over 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, or you can have them find the sum or the minimum or the maximum, anything like that. And you can create these rules. So you create one key of a time series, and then all these other keys are just automatically populated thanks to Redis time series. So
that's the awesome part to me. So you don't have to customize, we don't have to add to 4 different time series. We don't have to worry about querying the time series with a particular aggregate every time we want to get, say, monthly data. We just create a rule, say, hey, I want to store monthly data. And Redis is like, okay, cool. I will store monthly data in this other time series for you.
Yeah, it's really cool. If you want to play with time series, they just updated. If you want to play with time series, I highly recommend connecting it to Grafana, because Grafana loves time series, of course. And with a couple of their plugins, you can have it automatically send API requests to a server that you build out, so that it will feed you what kind of aggregation it wants over certain times. So if you want, like with my air quality sensor, I was looking up at like 15-minute increments. It'll check every 30 seconds. If I'm looking over like 15 hours, I'd want to look up every 30 minutes averaged. So it just gives you a better visualization, and it doesn't look like some earthquake. It actually looks like the change of data over time.
So a question came in, where's the source of that data? So that's a tricky question. So the answer is the source of the data is bandcamp.com. They have an API, a sales API that we're poking into. Now that we're done with this, we can actually talk a little bit more in depth about how exactly we're poking into it. So uh, their API is just a normal request response, but we're turning it into a stream. So we're kind of simulating a streaming API that has streaming purchases coming in, and then we're storing that data in Redis. So we're using Redis streams to handle the streaming purchases, and then we're also using a time series in Redis to display the purchase history chart. So that's all coded into our application.
Yeah, Will did a really good job of like this API that we call. It does just exist as an array of objects, but to kind of simulate this liveliness of these purchases coming in, we looked at the time series, or I'm sorry, not the time series, the timestamp, and we kind of worked on the math based off of that to create this. Is this exactly real time? No, but it's kind of fuzzy real time. It's real time enough. So that's pretty cool. You can actually do this with your own static data if you wanted. So yeah, it's a good question. And originally, this app is kind of built off of a banking app that's not very exciting. It's great demonstration, but it showed just randomly generated transactions that would come in exactly 10 seconds. But I always wanted to kind of like attach this concept of this application to something that has more lively, volatile data. I've talked about air quality to death. Nobody wants to hear about air quality from me, so now let's do some music and shine some light on some artists. Point that way. So yeah, that's the application. We have multiple branches. We have the workshop start branch that I'm on now, and I just coded that out. But we have workshop start. We also have main, which is going to be the full application, and then I created purchase history, top sellers, and search. So if you actually want to have 1, 2, or 3 of the sprints finished, you can kind of jump in at different times, and I'll push those up after the broadcast.
Yeah, and so I'll post the workshop repository again, so you can go out to GitHub, github.com/redis-developer/beats-by-redis, and you'll see all the code up here. And not only that, we have a follow-up to this workshop that is a built-in tutorial in Redis Insight. So if you look in the README, and Justin can scroll through it now, at the very bottom of the README, it links you to a Redis Insight tutorial, which has some setup instructions there. So it guides you through cloning the repository, how to run it, how to set up your Redis database, where to download Redis Insight, and how to get set up there. And then how to actually upload a tutorial into Redis Insight. And maybe we can here, Justin. I don't know if you have the tutorial link handy. I think it's in that repository, but you could upload it and kind of show how it works in there.
Yeah. So set up instructions. Let me switch. Sorry, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. So yeah, basically clone this down, you enter in. I actually created a free cloud account already. So this is actually what I've been working off of, a Redis instance on the cloud. I actually haven't installed the tutorial because I've been working on this application.
Perfect. So I can walk you through it right now. So there's should be right below this, there's a URL that you can copy. This is just telling you how to get connected. Yeah, so you can copy that URL, and then you can go into the Redis Insight Workbench.
Okay.
You don't even have to download it. The Redis Insight Workbench allows you to just paste a URL directly in there and then load it from that. So if you go I guess you have to like X out of this one. You're in a time series. Yeah.
My
You just go to
tutorials.
upload tutorial. Yeah. Or hit the plus
Oh,
button there. That's fine. And then you can paste the tutorial link, hit submit. And now you
whoa,
have your Beats by Redis tutorial in there.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so we have a couple of sections, but what's really cool is that, this is interactive. So now you're within Redis Insight, you're also connected to your Redis database that is running the app. So this tutorial is going to use some of that data as it's coming in, and it just gives you a deeper dive into the commands that are being run and all of that, which is really nice. So I think, yeah, like it allows you to add a purchase to the stream. You see the ID, and you can kind of just follow through and follow along with that. And then at the end of the tutorial, um, we actually have a survey that is going to take a result from the tutorial, and if you get the answer right in that survey, you'll be entered into a raffle for us to send out either a Pluralsight subscription or a gift card to Bandcamp, whichever you choose.
That's
For the
really
winners, not everybody, the winners.
awesome. Yeah, and big shout out to Bandcamp for letting us tickle their API, their sales feed. I saw this on their page. I'm like, that is such a original and novel way of like showing data and purchases. So yeah, please definitely run through this tutorial and pick between Pluralsight, which has fantastic tutorials and walkthroughs, or Bandcamp. Get your favorite music. Pick up one of the top 5 that you've seen here, or if you're in a band, purchase your own music, send yourself some.
That's kind of an interesting loophole, but you know what? It's your money.
Yeah.
So I have the survey URL up, and for those who registered on Redis.com for this talk, you'll get a follow-up email with the survey link as well.
Right on. Well, yeah. If you ever have any ideas for this repository, please submit an issue or a fork and create a PR if you're ever so bold. We're going to be playing with this application for quite a bit. If we make something within Redis, we want to get a lot of use out of it. So I know you might not want to hear this, but October is coming around the corner, and with October comes Hacktober. And this is a fantastic platform for you to contribute to open source. And that is just, that's what Hacktober is all about. So there's a lot of possibilities for some fun swag and getting your name out, on there and creating a cool feature for Beats by Redis.
Yeah, so one thing, just looking at that dashboard, there are a few different ways you could slice it. Like we talked about earlier, you might be an artist. So, if you're a musician and you want to look at your sales data, how, people purchasing your songs or your albums, this would be a great dashboard for you to be able to log into. And one thing we didn't really touch on in this live stream, because we didn't have as much time as we would need to really go in depth into it, but you're able to log into this app. So we have authentication and login, and we're using sessions to store all of that information. And so with a little bit of lift, you could assume that the person logs in as a musician. They have a a couple, either they have their own band or even multiple bands that they care about, and you could craft a dashboard that's specifically for a person. And that would work even if they're a musician, or like we talked about earlier, imagine you're say like a Bandcamp rep, and you rep a couple of different artists on their site and you want to see how they're doing. You could write that into the app as well. So just a couple ideas for things to do.
Yeah.
And, people brought up in here that heat map. That would be awesome. That's actually something I had not thought of, but that would be really cool to kind of just see beacons coming out on the map as things are purchased in different countries.
We can also connect this to a lot of different, third-party open source sources. So like Music Brains, there's Music DB, things like that. You can pull out different genres from each artist if they have submitted their information to these, these open source, open community places. So you can actually start saying like, what are people listening to? What are the top genres? Things like that. So you can create this just big, octopus, if you will, of information. So this is just the start. But yeah, kind of afraid to plug in my old band and see what information I wouldn't get. We're not platinum selling yet, but you never know. Cool. Well, doesn't look like there isn't really any more questions.
Nope.
Let's see here. If you ever want to see anything that we have entered here, so with the time series, with the sorted sets, you can always go and check out the Redis commands. So these are going to cover the basic commands that you would see on the command line interface, but they'll also include our most popular clients. So you're going to see this was in JavaScript, so you're going to see the Node Redis, but it'll also include like Redis Pi. And then for those of you that enjoy Java and C#, you can also see those as well. So it's not just JavaScript. And if you want to see the different clients that we actually have, you saw Node Redis here, but we have a list under our docs section for clients, and you can see the top recommended clients. So that's not a problem. And then lastly, a shout out to Redis Ohm for Node.js. That's what we use to automatically index all of the stream purchases, the JSON objects that we created, and that's what made search so simple for us. It was just bam, it was there. So yeah, all the things that I really have. If you do want to check out further things in an educational setting, go to university at university.redis.com. You'll see courses by all of us in the DevRel community, in the DevRel team within Redis, and we'll actually have specifically things like for this course or for this stream. I would definitely recommend querying, indexing, and full text search, and storing, querying, and indexing JSON at speed. So that will get you very well prepared for setting up your own application. And it's going to go into very much depth, huge depth on searching and querying your indexes that you create. So cool. Any more housekeeping we should do?
I don't think so. That about covers it. I think we're good here, unless there are any other questions, but I haven't seen any come in through the chat. So
okay, cool. Well, we can always continue the conversation. If you've joined us on Discord, that's a great place to start. It is an absolutely mind-bending compendium of information. And if you have questions, we're all on Discord. We're all more than happy to actually answer any of your questions. And it's a very involved community, and it's a very pleasant community, which I absolutely love. We worked really hard to curate a great, warm community of people. So I will definitely see you there. And thank you for joining. And of course, you're probably watching this on YouTube, so please subscribe, and watch all the videos that we have coming out. Will and I both talk a lot, and we have a lot of content on YouTube that we hope helps you. So cool. All right. Well, have a good day, Will. Have a good day, everybody. And keep coding.
see you later.
See ya.